We're hoping the other interpreter arrives soon.
What happened?
We can go whenever. I can send the other interpreters, but cancel it tonight, but we're still good to go whenever you guys are ready.
She must not be here. She thought with the weather.
If it should happen that there's only one interpreter, I want to make sure that they get the break every 20 minutes or so, okay?
Okay, we'll take that. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to our December 5th board meeting. Everybody watching online and in person. We'll start with introductions.
Good evening, everyone. Leslie Myers, Small Executive Director.
Guam Teplab, East District Council appointee.
Keith Patterson, Alliance Seat Representative.
Larry Knox, board chair in Northeast.
Yvonne Wilson, council seat.
Daniel Cadet, Alliance appointee.
Mary Weinbach, and I'm an appointed from the Alliance.
And we have 3 board members that are excused, Mr. Clark, Ms. Brown, and Ms. Settle aren't able to make it tonight. All right, thank you everybody for attending on a snowy night. Still doing the people's work, so we'll start off with approval of our meeting minutes, which we emailed out and also in front of you from our November meeting. Any additions, changes, subtractions?
I move that the meeting be accepted.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes? Unanimous? All right, staff reports. Nice.
Great. Good evening again. Have a pretty robust report to provide. So this is certainly activities, accomplishments, projects, etc., that have happened in the PAB since our last board meeting, which was on November 7th. We are going to begin, since we have both the interim director of public affairs and community engagement and our staff here. So we're going to start with them actually providing a live report. So I'd ask if Sandra come to the front and just provide a brief introduction, because this is the first time the board has seen you, at least in this capacity. And then if you'd like to introduce the team, our team.
Yeah.
Our team. And as they're coming to the front, one of the things that it's important just to start with is that community engagement is really critical, just in general, but particularly for the Police Accountability Board when we're talking about making sure that we are engaging with different communities, different constituents, and reaching out to populations that may not tend to be reached out to. And so I've had extensive conversations with the team about the importance of that. And what's been so exciting over the little bit of time that they've been here, the amazing engagement and the opportunities that they've been involved in to get out and to spread the word and to make sure people are informed. So I'm really excited for you to hear from them. This has already been, I know, a long day, so I just want to thank you for being here this evening. And with that, I'll be quiet and turn it over to them.
I'm Sandra J. Simon. I am a retiree of the city of Rochester, and I have returned again to the city of Rochester. I am happy to be here, though, and that my team is fantastic. And I told them I was going to tell them that in public. But nevertheless, my background is in human resources, as well as I worked as a minority women-owned business enterprise officer for the city of Rochester. I worked for the mayor at the time, was lovely and warm, and my background is extensive and a lot of community engagement, which is the reason why I'm working with this team to talk about what we're going to do, presently what we're doing, and what we plan on doing in the future. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn it over to the staff.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us this evening. I'm Kevin Stewart. I'm a Community Engagement Specialist here at the PAB. I have a background working with a number of local organizations, nonprofits, primarily in the urban agriculture world. And I also worked in some local government as a legislative aide for a city council member. And I'll pass it on to Ms.
Good evening. My name is Faisulis Vides. I'm the bilingual specialist engagement. And a little bit of my background, I am originally from Colombia. I have worked before as a care manager with refugee community and new immigrants. And I am very happy to be part of the team, be part of this organization, and working with Dr. Meyers and Kevin. And we're just, excited to share with you what we have done so far in the 2 months that we have been with the organization.
And just use that as a context. 2 months is all they've been here. Now wait till you hear what's happened in those 2 months.
Yeah, so I believe all of you have a packet in front of you that sort of reflects the accomplishments and plans for November and how we're going to move forward from the work that we've done so far. Starting first and foremost with the survey that was launched just under 2 weeks ago. We're really excited about this survey. Not only is it an essential component of our KPIs under the 24-25 budget, but our hope is that this will establish a baseline for awareness and perceptions. Yes, please.
Hold on, actually, I don't think, do we all have the packet? There's community engagement.
I don't see that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Did it make it play around?
Excuse me.
So at the top, just under November metrics, you'll see the survey responses. Thank you, Ben. And again, this survey is intended to establish a baseline for the awareness and perceptions of the work that we do, and also to gauge the public support for the important decisions that have been made by the organization in recent months and the goals that we have moving forward. So far, we have 33 responses across our English and Spanish surveys, and we have dropped flyers individually to 72 small businesses, organizations in different locations around the city. This is not an exhaustive list at all. We will continue these efforts for the coming month, and we'll be targeting between 150 and 200 locations across the city in all 4 quadrants. We've established a tracking system to make sure that we're treating each quadrant equitably and finding community relevant locations in each area. We've also been focusing on community outreach events. As we're doing our survey work and gathering information, it's important to be spreading the word as we're gathering where we're at. So in the last month, we've had 11 unique outreach events. We consider unique outreach events anything where we're either presenting to a group of people who hasn't heard of us before, or what we're having what we call introductory or relationship building meetings. We also have what we call recurring outreach efforts, which is where there are certain locations and organizations that we already have a very robust relationship with, and we feel that it's important to maintain a steady contact with these places. Examples of these are Cameron Ministries in the Northwest, the Father Tracy Advocacy Center in the Northeast, and the Central Library. And we've done 8 of those efforts in the month of November. Those 2 categories combined, and with the 4 outings that we've done drops to different locations for our survey flyer, we've seen a total of 23 outreach events in the month of December. I want to highlight this metric, not just because it sort of is a testament to the frequency with which we've been able to make contact with the community, but also acknowledging the importance of KPIs in the work that we do. The current budget, please.
The KPI.
Yeah.
What does it
Key
mean?
Performance Index.
Okay, the key performance index.
Correct.
Indicator,
Thank you.
indicator, yes. So
Key performance indicator.
Yes.
key performance indicator,
Okay.
and those are,
Goals.
that we agreed upon, and we fall under city council. So we have several key performance indicators that we are responsible for fulfilling, like metrics, if you will. So when we come before you in February, because we are tracking from, we'll have July 1, 2024 through, no, we'll come to you in, when's our January board meeting?
Next week, no.
Okay, in January, when we have our board meeting, we will give you some preliminary numbers. So it looks at things like, so to take for public affairs and community engagement, how many surveys we've disseminated, right? How many engagements have we had? In policy, nope, I don't want to pick that one. In investigations, how many investigations have we had? How many have we opened? How many have we closed? What's the time frame that it takes us from start to finish? So those are all metrics that we have to report on to city council during the budget season.
And we'll be halfway through, so we should be hopefully near halfway or better.
Yes.
I mean, the KPIs,
Yes.
halfway through the year.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Which is why I wanted to point out this 23 number, because one of the KPIs that we do have in the current budget is the expectation of 100 community outreach events in this budget season. And so having 23 in a single month puts us well on track to meet and exceed that expectation. It's a goal of our department to be monitoring KPIs and doing everything we can to make sure that our department and the organization as a whole is on a trajectory to meet or exceed all of our KPIs. We also have our new community connections. These are folks that we have sort of established and nurtured relationships with in the last 2 months. We're trying to have a sort of wide gambit on different types of organizations and different communities that they're representing. This is hardly an exhaustive list. We recognize that this is only the beginning, and we will continue to make sure that we are not neglecting or missing any essential communities here in Rochester.
I want to just give kudos to your team and then because even though it's not all, like, you just gotta start it off with these few community agencies, but you've reached out to these agencies, which is it's a big plus.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, youth engagement in particular, at the advisement of Dr. Meyer-Small and Ms. Simon, is a major priority for us. And we see Center for Youth and Teen Empowerment as a beginning of ongoing efforts. We're going to talk a little bit more about what we plan for the future. But
Can I add something
Yeah,
to that? Just because I actually brought the charter here because I was going to ask about it. On page 17 of our charter, it talks about youth outreach. That's something that we need to do more of. And I was just, especially as we're talking about going to budget season and needing the support to do everything. There's a bunch around there, but I'm glad you're starting out. It's something we definitely got to engage more on. And it's one of the few things in the charter that are very specific about in regards to community outreach. So, perfect time.
appreciate it.
And y'all doing a good, excellent job, but my question is, what about the seniors?
Yeah.
So that's a suggestion, okay, and youth are our future, but seniors right now, it is our
Sure.
present. And because I'm a senior, I need seniors to also be reached out to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's important, but it's a balance because we just don't want to be compliant, but we do have to make sure that we fulfill our KPIs, but not ignore the fact that they're our senior population. So that's something we can absolutely monitor.
We got the money.
Yeah. Well, and
You have the money, did you say? Oh,
And
Okay.
in some ways, that was an oversight on our part, not including that as a community connection. FI has done a really wonderful job of engaging with a number of the larger apartment complexes across the city of Rochester, many of which emphasize and prioritize seniors. And so I think in the first 2 months, we've hit at least 7 or 8 of those apartments. And so we,
added.
yeah, absolutely.
And I go back, as you guys are doing that, I mean, it's like some of the board members know, because I got some in there where I live, Seneca Towers and others, there might be chances for us, especially the district reps, to meet you out in some of those, or as we build out also the regional events that we're supposed to do, district meetings at least once in each district. We're kind of willing to, maybe I'm getting ahead of us, but yeah, you definitely want to be able to do more of that, all of us. Aaron?
I'm wondering if you have plans to separately interact with the deaf community and people who are hard of hearing. And I don't know if you know, it's two separate groups in many ways. The communication is different.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into this a little bit in our upcoming events and meeting plans. But we've been engaging with Heather, who's our language access coordinator, and sort of asking her to guide the work that we do with the deaf and hard of hearing communities. So that's very much on our plans for the coming months.
Just to add to that, this is something that is coming up in the sheet that you have. But so part of the significant projects that we're working on for the future, we plan on including an intro video in ASL and other languages, so we can use that for enhance our social media traffic, and also to, you know, include that older population like you just mentioned, the seniors and the deaf community as well.
Yeah. And so last thing on page one, just total individual contacts made. This is a conservative number. We didn't track every single engagement that we have. This is everything that we were able to document. So this is an accurate but conservative number. So 386 individuals is the most conservative number on this. In reality, that number is actually much higher. But there are certain events, like when we do street outreach on North Clinton and on Lyle, where we're handing out food, information, and sort of essential resources to folks on the street. And during those things, we haven't yet worked out a system for counting individuals. We will continue to refine our tracking, so we want it to be as conservative as possible while maintaining accuracy. And in terms of special populations engaged, we have on page 2 at the top a list of some of the populations that we have engaged with just in the month of November. Again, this is not seen as an exhaustive list. We have much more work to do, and we can always do better, but this is where we've been for the last month. And without any questions, I'll pass it over to Tom.
Thank you. Okay, so as I was mentioning, as part of the work that we have been doing for the future and for the present, well, we have been working on some significant projects. I have been working on a resource guide, or like a booklet. So the goal that we want to achieve with this booklet is to provide a more clear, concise, and more educational information about the organization to the community. We are expecting to have the ability to translate this booklet in several languages. This booklet will include information about the PAB regarding the history, the mission, the vision, how to file a claim. We want to also include emergency resources. We want to include the type of police misconduct, so people have a better understanding on that. And we also have worked on creating and developing a new trifold, like a brochure, providing information on what is police misconduct. So this one has been translated into Spanish so far, English and Spanish. And so when we go out to the community, we are providing these booklets, this brochure to the community, so we can explain better the type of misconduct that, you know, people always ask questions about. If this happened to me, will that be misconduct or not? So this helps understand better the concept and the several types of misconduct that we have. Another thing that we've been working on is some presentation materials. I'm trying to put together a presentation, a PowerPoint, so we can use that for those unique events. That presentation will also include information about the organization. We are working really hard into, let's say, reinforcing the meaning of the PAB, our mission, our vision. So, because when we ask people about, have you heard about us? They really don't have any idea about who the PAB is. So we are working really hard on, you know, creating that identity of who the PAB is, and also reinforcing that once people hear the name of Police Accountability Board, they do immediately the association with the police. So we're trying to separate those things. And lastly, we are also working on neighborhood engagement. As Kevin mentioned already, we are trying to, become more involved into the major organizations around the city. So we can cover all the communities, such as the deaf community, seniors, like we said. I have taken the lead on those apartment buildings, thinking about disabled seniors and all the people that need to know about us. And also people who have probably experienced situations with the police. We want them to know how to file a claim. We want them to know that the service is available to them. And we also want them to feel included, as part of the community. We have also been working on creating an identity, kind of like a rebranding of the PAB, bringing like a more clear message of what we are and what we want to achieve. So Kevin and I, we worked together on a slogan for the PAB. So the slogan says, transparent and accountable public safety for you, for me, for us. So we want to enhance that for you, that we are working for the community. We want to include the for me, because we are also part of the community, and for us, so we are all a team. So that's something that we also want to put out there, so the community kind of like relates to the message as well. So.
I just got something, I don't know, part of the neighborhood engagement. I don't even know if it's permissible, but like the Rochester City School District. Like, you got anything, I'm not jumping ahead. Anything that, in the plans to go on that, to get the Rochester City School District, the board members there and the teachers or whatever, then trickle down to the children, the youth. So is that anything that's also planned?
Yes, so we do have some upcoming and potential event meetings that is on the last page.
Okay.
So we have some events listed there. The last part, you can say that our goal is to continue working on expanding the survey outreach, so we can get more feedback about what the community knows and what they don't. We continue building our December calendar, and we are also working on, creating those key communities that is listed here, colleges, universities, as well as trades and apprentice programs. So we will include high school, the school district.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Then, but it's not limited to just the college,
Right,
but you're
yeah.
gonna also go into.
Yeah, so we want to include as well the LGBT plus community, organization, the deaf community, the seniors. Exactly. We just want to include everybody, whoever we
That's
can.
right. All right, that's good.
And with school-age children, our initial approach was making contact through our centers and libraries and other areas that are frequented by young people. We do have an intention of making our way into schools, but we just wanted to make sure that we were going through the appropriate
That's
avenues.
it, right.
Yeah, so that's very much on the radar, and it's something we'll continue to strive at.
Do I remember correctly that you did make some entrance in Monroe? Was it Monroe?
Monroe, we were going in during lunchtime.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Monroe High School. They did go to lunchtime at Monroe, previous board member.
Right, that's high school, I'm talking, okay, that's good, but I'm just saying, I want everybody from kindergarten
Yeah.
to 12th grade.
Just remember, we only have 2 community
Well,
engagements.
I need some help.
And there are like 40-something schools.
No,
in the
I'm just,
Rochester
well,
City
no, I
School
said
District.
engage the
Yes, but
board
we
members
just wanna,
and the
Yeah.
teachers
Yeah.
and the principals.
in those
and the
46
parents.
plus.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I
I got
so, anyway, all right.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you both bringing up
Yeah.
board member involvement. Certainly, we welcome any input and assistance that you all are interested in bringing to the table, and guidance that you want to provide through Dr. Mary Small.
Calendar, just give us some calendar dates.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
fantastic.
Definitely.
And we're ahead of time, not the day of.
I appreciate that.
We're working on our board member Wilson's shyness, so.
Yeah,
It's an amazing amount of work, and to reiterate again, just 2 months. I am curious about social media and if that's going to be utilized as a platform, or if it hasn't, we're just not seeing any metrics. Of course, I definitely
Yeah.
see the power of talking about in-person engagement, and I think I prioritize that over social media, but it would be good to also see what work you were doing in there.
yeah, absolutely. We do have a plan. I think Dr. Myers-Smalls can speak to the onboarding of hires that are very much in the pipeline. But in the meantime, we do have a short-term strategy for social media, primarily focusing on highlighting some of the work that policy and oversight has done, which we think is really exciting and has gotten really great receptions from the folks in the community, and is engaging content. I mean, it's really fantastic work that their division is doing. And then also, of course, the survey, social media and the importance of it. While I agree, I think having folks face to face in the community is
a lot better than,
but it does take time, and especially covering the entire city, we want to make sure we are covering all quadrants, all neighborhoods equitably.
Right.
And those things take time. So social media will be an essential tool
Yeah.
for distributing the survey rapidly and broadly as we continue our sort of on the ground work.
So we had a gap because typically the Public Affairs and Community Affairs Division should have a director, 2 managers, and then the community engagement specialist. And for a while, it was just Kevin and I, and then me doing my best to lead. So we have Sandra, we have several applications to look through for the communications manager. So we're gonna build back up. So yes, we did have a gap in social media, but we're gonna come back.
That is gonna be part of that's gonna be part of the marketing and branding enhancement, so we're working on it.
you mentioned the media anyway.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we want to do that intro video, so kind of like to bring the community, so they don't feel the gap that has been there. So we just want to kind of like reintroduce ourselves to social media, and which is why we plan on doing the video.
Excellent.
Yeah, just remember, 2 months, 8 weeks, 2 people, that's right. We now have an interim director. And the key thing is we need to get those dates out to you, but we also need to make sure that you are scheduling. You have to have at least one before June 30th, and I would like to try and see if we could do that prior to or during budget season. So that's going to be key. I just wanted to publicly say thank you to you too. I try and let them know. It's just 2 people making such a significant impact so quickly and really making very genuine connections, right? It's not just checking off the box to do it. They're making genuine connections and getting the word out.
I want to add, it seems like you all got some good qualifications, so I'm just saying, along with your determination, what you're doing, the qualifications, and the help of the board and everybody in the community, I think we off to a good start, and we're gonna, like you say, knock down the state of dragon, or whatever you want to call it. Either way, it's gonna work. Okay.
Thanks very much. Yeah, we look forward to working more with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I have to continue going. So the next is, let me just go through a few more departmental updates. Case management, and you have this in front of you, but again, this is for also our viewers, either live or later on. So during November, we had 14 complaints, 12 cases were open, 2 cases were administratively closed, and the board reviewed and moved to close 4 cases. And then you can see the case status, administratively closed, as I mentioned, 2, case management review 2, investigative plan 4, investigations review 1, pending close 4, and then request for information 1. Kevin mentioned, and Fi mentioned a little bit about accessibility. And under Ben's leadership, he worked with Dolores about our intake form. So it soon will be available on our website in PDF format in both English and Spanish. And plans are underway to translate the form into additional languages. We also will have the forms distributed in the lobby and via our public affairs and community engagement division. And what we noted is there was like a discrepancy, just a slight discrepancy between what was online and what our hard printed out copies were. So that's now aligned. Okay?
For the online copy, is it just the PDF to be printed out, or is it an online submission? Both.
Okay. The case management team is going to utilize a language line translation service for phone and in-person intakes with Spanish-speaking individuals until the bilingual case management position is filled, so we don't have gaps. In policy and oversight, in just a bit, Dejan, our director of policy and oversight, is going to go over the cost of misconduct. And we are finalizing a press release that will go out tomorrow because the chief accepted, not all, but some of our recommendations for the protest and mass demonstration response policy. So that is a really good thing. He did that last week. So I had a really good conversation with the captain today. And we're just going to put out a release that talks about, we applaud the RPD for taking some of our recommendations. And although the document is not public yet for distribution, RPD takes care of distributing that, and then the public can see what recommendations were taken. So that's a small step in the right direction, I feel, and I'm just hopeful that we can continue to gain that momentum. Any questions on that? Okay. Investigations. We had 3 reports were sent to RPD in November. So the chief, as a part of the process, has to acknowledge receipt. And the relevant evidence was uploaded for review, and these reports will be posted on our website shortly, so we continue to post the investigative reports. Due to the holiday season, the December reporting schedule may have some delays, so we've slowed down just a little bit. The disciplinary matrix, we talked about that last time. You remember, I think it's just a few more days, right, Ben, that we're waiting for the Locust Club and RPD to see if they have any feedback or input for us. And then, as you know, relative to the Locust Club lawsuit, we're working with attorneys that were retained by the city law department to defend against the latest Locust Club lawsuit. And as you know, they're just trying to further limit our powers. But advocacy for legal representation specifically for the PAB continues. But right now, we are using the defense team as retained by the city. Training and professional development. We have an upcoming charter training on December 20th from NACOL. Now, this is a part of the required charter requirements for training. So topics include civilian oversight history, models, trends, standards, and best practices. During the month of November, we have a strong team of staff, and Bill Clark is a board member attending at the Citizens Police Academy. So specialized units in community policing, the crisis intervention team, narcotics and economic crimes, and body-worn cameras and criminal investigations. That actually was a pretty fascinating night, and those of us who attended did take one for the team. It was the night before Thanksgiving, but we did it.
Good job.
Yes. These sessions just really help us to enhance our understanding about how the Rochester Police Department operates, and then it can just help with policy and oversight in other areas. Just under training and professional development, since that's operations, we received several applications for the communications manager position. And we'll be scheduling those interviews and hope to get somebody on board soon. And we have the public affairs and community engagement team actively involved in that process. Those are all the staff updates that I have. Any questions about that? And then I can get into the other areas. But any department division updates? Okay. All right. SOPs. I sent SOPs out a few weeks ago and then refreshed probably about a week or so ago. And as you know, we have 3 that have been drafted for the board's consideration. And again, they are drafts. They are not finalized nor published.
Dr. Small,
Yes.
so just for the community, SOP is
Standard operating procedures. So how we conduct business as an agency, either the board, the agency overall, or the staff. So there are 3. Board member code of conduct. So those are behavioral standards for board members. Conflict of interest and ethics. Protocols for managing conflicts and promoting ethical behavior, and then board member training, and their guidelines for ongoing education on diversity, legal compliance, and best practices. And so, with you having the opportunity to have had those for a few weeks, I just wanted to have a public conversation, dialogue about feedback from you, and were there any concerns, questions, additions, deletions?
Which one did you want to start with?
We'll start with the code of conduct. And for the public who's watching, our standard operating procedures are outlined in the following way. We start with the purpose. So just to give an overall overview of the SOP. Then we have the scope, so who does it specifically apply to? The responsibilities, if it's the board, the executive director, the staff, etc. And then we go into outlining what the SOP entails. So there are different sections. We also have appendices. So if there are other documents that we are either referencing, or if there are forms that need to be completed by the board or the staff. And then we always have a review and updates because things do change over time. So a new law or mandate, or just contemporarily, something could come up that would require us to maybe make a change. So we typically will review these annually, but it could be sooner should one of those things happen. And then we have approvals, and in this case, the board would be the final approval on this one. Typically, it's me when it comes to staff, SOPs or standard operating procedures, but for the board, it would be the board. So that's just a general outline of how an SOP is oriented. So we'll start with code of conduct.
Actually, I do not have any like teeth or changes at the moment. I do appreciate, it's coming together because I know the community, they like to know that not only we're trying to hold, law enforcement accountable, but ourselves as well. So having this, code of conduct and folks to understand that we're following, high standards on our end as well.
Sure.
So it's not only just, we're not just going around just, saying and making those recommendations without holding us, on the same standard as well. So I do appreciate this coming together. And I think it's sooner rather than later. So, I know we've been here for 3 years now, but I think this is a good time to have this set up.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about, where, I know one of the tendencies is the city code of conduct.
Yeah,
So just, remind everybody to look at it again. It's been a while since you've probably seen it, if you haven't, since our board orientation. I mean, since you oriented, went through the city orientation. I did have a question before your time, but I remember when we went through our board orientation, for the city, that the city does, as the city, being on a city board, like that orientation wasn't really set up for our board, really, like it was more so for city employees. And there was, I think our way that we deal with other city employees is a little bit different than other folks
Sure.
do.
Mhm.
And in the Board of Ethics, I mean, the policy that they have doesn't really, I don't get undercut what we do, but there's other things I think that are
Sure.
kind of different
Mhm.
that we do as a board that other city employees don't do.
Right.
So just how, what were your thoughts, how could that be reflected, or just that being not a part of orientation from the city?
So I could certainly make a note of just what you said, right? That the orientation is required of board members, but, PAB board members, but there are a lot of things that apply to staff that don't apply, and so it is a city requirement that you have to go through it, but that's just the case.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you, I just want
It
to.
is so, because I mean, I think there's certain check-ins we don't do. There's just things that we don't do that we're part of the orientation
Right.
that we're like,
Mhm.
nobody's
Okay.
coming after us on them because we're not employees and we're volunteers, but down the line, unless it's explicitly clear somewhere else
Okay,
that that's not the case, you have somebody trying to take advantage of that
sure.
legally down the line.
Right, or make it very specifically clear. Okay, because like I said, we're not city employees.
Mhm.
Okay? And I do believe that we all do have a moral compass.
You have a what?
So,
Moral compass.
Oh, got you, okay.
so I'm not saying that we're above the law, but I don't think that, like I said, because we're not city employees, we should not be scrutinized as city employees. So that's my objection to this code of conduct.
Okay. Got it?
Actually, I really kind of to go off of what Daniel said earlier, Frida said earlier. I think it's a great way to publicly show what our standards are, and it's a good way to have, with every board member coming in down the line in the future, a level set on what our culture is.
Yeah, which should be set by the board members, not the city of Rochester.
You're talking about the training. You're not talking about these SOPs, right?
I'm talking about standard operating procedures for the board members, because we are not city staff, okay? We are not them. So whatever the city got going on, like I'm going to say, I'm sure with Larry, what you were saying, okay. I don't know. I don't think we should be held to the same, like I said, scrutiny as those people. And everybody in here, I believe, I hope is on the board, have morals, okay? But all that other stuff, that, I don't say companies have, but anyway, I guess what I'm saying, I'm not really politically correct, all right? So I'm just saying, say something that might not be quote unquote standard operating procedure for the city, and I don't want to be held accountable. I'm talking about myself, not the rest of y'all. You don't want to. That's all.
So I have to make a note around the fact that you're not city employees, so there are some things that are not, that you shouldn't be held to that standard.
Correct.
Should be conflated.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Um,
And I'll say, that gets, the reason we're saying that, I think we're kind of, was it, but that goes to our independence. So
Correct.
that's
Right.
why
Mhm.
we're a little bit more independent of what the employees are able to do, or be, or even our staff sometimes. So that's, the independence of our board is kind of directly related to that.
okay,
I mean, goes without saying, but I just need to say it. That's where it's coming from.
yeah, okay. Next one. Good. All right, conflict of interest and ethics.
Sounds like,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Is all this pertaining to the board members or to the staff?
No, this is specific for the board. These are board SOPs.
Okay, so I'm, an example, what would be an example of a conflict of interest or ethics for the board?
If we hired somebody that was your relative, you would need to abstain from any type of, interaction or decision-making over that person, for example.
Oh, okay, but, all right, and actually, I don't know, all right, the board members, we basically don't, hire or fire staff, correct? I'm just saying, I just want, okay,
Right, but I'm
So-
just saying, if there was, just making sure that that was a clean line between you and if there was a family member. Like if you came up to the PAB and was engaging with your family member or asking about how they're doing, that's a conflict of interest. That has to stay clean. It
I'm
happens.
sorry, no, what I'm saying.
Not on this board, but it happens with
No,
board.
I got that, but I'm just trying to see. All right, so, John was my cousin. I'm just saying. And so if I'm talking to John, right, that would be a conflict of interest.
I didn't say talk to him, but if you are saying to me, or if John was applying, hey, you really need to hire him in this communications manager position, that would be a conflict of
But
interest.
I'm just saying, but that is how corporate America actually, I'm just saying, hire people about who you know, whether you're a family member, or recommendations or referrals. So I'm just trying to really get it straight. How would that be a conflict?
If you were putting pressure, saying, right, I really strongly suggest, Leslie,
Oh, okay.
did you hire
Okay,
John?
so I got you. So I would come to you,
That's
Dr.
a
Smiles, and I
conflict.
say, well, I really think you need to hire John. And then I give you an if clause. That's what you're trying to say.
Give me a what?
An if clause. If you don't hire John,
It's going to be
Right.
uncomfortable.
Right.
Mhm.
okay, that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Okay,
Mary?
Conflict of interest and ethical.
okay.
Go ahead, Mary.
I wanted to give a couple of other examples because I worked for several boards that had no understanding of conflict of interest. Let's say one of us was dating the head of the local club or someone in the high ranking of our PTA. We would have to disclose that and then recuse ourselves from any vote. Or if somebody was good friends with the property company and we were considering moving into their building. Same thing, you disclose and then recuse yourself from the vote.
I think one obvious example is just, and this is why probably the reason I asked, Victoria sent everybody all the cases the info has sitting on them, so you can know in advance if you happen to be a neighbor of or know somebody who does a complaint, or have affiliation with somebody that doesn't complain. Obviously, you don't want to sit and review a case with somebody that you have, some kind of more than past relationship with. So we can avoid that by just, seeing in advance, the panels, who the people are that have the complaints. So that's an example that if it's your neighbor or somebody you don't want to review their case.
Okay, I'd say that too, but if you're a person that know a lot of people,
Yeah.
okay, right?
A lot of us are.
So that's kind of, that's
But
kind of.
you have to reveal that you might have
Oh,
a
just put that in the language and I have to reveal that.
connection or
Okay.
relationship. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not that you
No,
can't.
no, I'm saying put that in the conflict of interest, put that in the language, because like I say, I know a lot of people.
Well, I think that's on us to reveal that. That's part of the disclosure of, let's say we're doing a panel review and it's like, oh, that's my former neighbor. I don't know her well. We never talked, but you should say that. But if it's somebody that you know very well, like, well, that's, my daughter's best friend's mom or something, well, we probably probably recuse ourselves and find somebody else in the panel.
Okay, I'm
to
just
review
saying, I
that case.
got you, but I'm saying that right there, now I gotta understand what the conflict of interest was, because, everybody might not understand, like Mary said, different type of conflicts of interest. So you have to make things specific so people will understand them, and all things you gotta get to understand. So that's what I try to do.
So if you look at Appendix A, under the 4 areas that you agreed to adhere to, the second, it spells it out. Number 2, disclosing any potential or actual conflict of interest promptly. So as soon as you know, that's on Appendix A.
Page 3.
Number 2, abstaining from participation in decisions where a conflict of interest exists. So it does, I think, I mean, if there's something that you want me to spell out a little bit more, but I think those 2 hit that.
Oh, so you have the definitions on a different section.
Well,
I'm just saying, but they're there, they just wasn't on this page.
it says it here, but then you have to sign off on it.
Okay.
I do have a question, and sorry.
Sure.
Brain cells are not quick. It's concerning fiduciary responsibility. Do we have that
In here,
in any of the standard operating procedures?
you know what?
Because I know that my board or my vestry are the fiduciaries.
Yeah.
And so that's why I asked you, for example, when we were being sued, even though it was the city, what was our liability?
No, we don't. I mean, it's, the city takes that.
So I think that even, in terms of a budget, ultimately, because that's a concern that I have, is I've not, since I've been here, I haven't actually seen a budget. I know that there's stuff that's being done, but one has never been presented since I've been here. And so that's where that fiduciary responsibility is like, are the funds being correctly stewarded?
Right.
I don't think we,
Jim,
none of us
answer to
seen a
that
budget.
bit? No.
No, we're good.
Budget was set way before half of us.
Yeah, but we should, even
Right.
if it's set by someone else, we should still see it.
No, I agree with you. But half of us, there hasn't been a budget shown since I've been here.
So that's why later on tonight, we have that as an agenda
Yeah,
item
that's another
to
thing.
talk it through.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't answer your question.
No, you did actually, that we need to look into that.
Yeah, okay. I was just saying, yeah.
Our responsibility as a board in terms of the
Yep.
finances that are budgeted for this
Yeah.
agency. And again, because we're not a city agency, we're sort of, we are independent. So that, I think, makes it imperative that we also understand what our finances are.
Mm-hmm.
And many eyes prevent malfeasance.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the interpreter speaking. I have to take a 10-minute break because it's just me today. It's a good to do so.
Can we just move on from this one, then we'll take the break?
Do you know about how much longer?
Like, on this particular item, is there anything else
Okay.
before we take the break?
Good.
How long a break?
So we do have pizza and wings in the conference room, if you want to do that.
Okay.
For 10
And
minutes,
soda.
come back.
10 minutes is usually where.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break and
Yep.
get to the last operating procedure.
Okay.
So actually, we'll make a motion to,
Take a 10 minute.
take a 10-minute break.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
All in favor?
All right,
Okay.
we'll take a 10-minute break.
Y'all come back now.
It's going to be
Good.
All right, welcome back, everybody. On to the last SOP document.
Thank you. So the last SOP is board member training and continuing education. And as each of you know, that is required per our charter. And so this just formalizes this and makes sure that it outlines what those expectations are, but it also leaves open the opportunity to take additional training, right, should need be.
I love this. I think it will put to the forefront, you know, it is in the charter, but it really puts to the forefront what our obligation is. And especially me speaking as someone that joined the board in September and hasn't done any of my trainings yet or scheduled them. So.
Are you done some?
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, straightforward.
I had a question. I don't think we have a policy. I know everybody's required to do a ride along.
Yeah.
Is that one time, or should we make that yearly, or every 2 years, or what's the idea?
It's a loose interpretation.
Yeah.
I think yearly is important, right?
I prefer our ride alongs to be during the day, but also in the evening sometimes, which, our PD likes to keep us during the day, but I think different times would be good.
Yeah.
Have we talked with council for their expectations of what the trainings would be? I mean, I think we're doing what we feel is right, but do you think there's any, since it's something in the charter, they loosely kind of say what they should be, but we're ready for the KPIs, what they expect the change to be, this is line up with what they're expecting?
I believe it does, and I do provide a monthly update to them so they can see the different trainings. Now, I don't know if they're looking to check the alignment, but they can see that we are actively and robustly participating.
Okay.
They are updated.
Cool. Any other questions?
Okay. All right, that takes us through SOP. So the strategic plan, again, I want to publicly thank City Council for approving our strategic plan, the funding for that on November 26th, 2024. And so we went through breakthrough leadership consulting, and they provided us a draft project timeline. We are having an initial meeting with them, and it is scheduled for December 17th from 10 to 12. And I wanted to see if 1 to 2 board members would be interested in participating. It is, they are meeting with us in person. We could try to figure out an online piece. If that would be easier, probably we could do it, I guess, in the conference room, but the preference would be to meet in person.
I'll text the board to check calendar.
Okay, great.
And what is this, I missed?
Yeah, meeting with the consultants and help with the strategic plan.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll text everybody to see who's kind of available. We have a few people aren't here.
Okay.
So more than 2 board members to come, right? Can the whole board come?
We can't have the whole board, then it's, it has to be 4 or less.
What was the time again?
10 to 12.
So you're gonna send out a thing, and then we're gonna correspond to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The PAB survey, Public Affairs and Community Engagement, certainly spoke to that. We're getting reports in. So you do have hard copies of the survey in both English and Spanish, and certainly encourage your friends, neighbors, colleagues, etc., to participate. The next one is the removal or refinement of a strategic initiative. And as you know, in the budget book every year, we have to prepare both key performance indicators or KPIs and strategic initiatives. And so as I was just preparing to go into the budget season and just to review, one of them was the alternatives to dispute resolution programs. And so this was developed by the previous executive director, Sherry, and it was an initiative to develop and launch a successful restorative alternative dispute resolution program. And that was identified as a priority. We are focusing on some other areas, e.g., for example, the strategic plan. And so if you note though, the ADR strategic initiative is linked to building connections and partnerships with the community to enhance public safety efforts and impacts, and then increasing resident engagement in city decision-making processes. This was not, it was coincidental that the team presented tonight, but I think you see that we are achieving that, right? And just in the past month. And so, my recommendation is to remove that, but I can provide evidence that we are doing that in very genuine and measurable ways. We're keeping track of those metrics. And why I'm asking for us to remove it is certainly for two reasons. One, I'm not headed in that direction. We would have to fund that, or if there, we would have to move forward on that. And two, we're meeting those strategic goals, and that's something that we can look at in the future. But I really think we need to remove that. And what it does is, if you are in agreement, I would just need to send a memo to President Melendez, and he circulate it, because if we keep it and we're not working on it, we're going to get dinged, and we'll be held accountable and asked, well, why aren't you doing the strategic initiative? So I want to be proactive early on to say, this initiative is not our focus, but we still are achieving the mayor's strategic goals. And again, you heard very clearly that work is going to continue. And we're engaging in a strategic plan, which is going to get us out, and it has already pushed us into the community more, and will continue to engage the community through that process. So I just wanted to take the temperature of the board to make sure that you were in agreement with that. You did see Jora's response via email around that, but just wanted to have a conversation and see if you're in agreement, and if you are, I will send a memo to President Melendez tomorrow.
I just want to say, I heard you correctly. You said this ADR, it's already been done by the community engagement.
No, not alternatives to dispute resolution, the strategic goals of building connections and partnerships with the community to enhance public safety efforts and impacts, and then increasing resident engagement in city decision-making processes. So that was the two strategic goals that the ADR program was linked to. I'm just saying, we're not doing the alternate dispute resolution, but we are fulfilling those strategic goals. So we're not out of compliance.
That's what I'm trying to say. When you say dispute, that means that we're like a conflict, or we're having a debate or something like. I just want to get to understand. So, and this right here was implemented by the mayor?
No.
Okay, well, I didn't hear.
So strategic initiatives are in the budget book, and they're listed by the different department bureaus. We're listed under city council, and we have several strategic initiatives. One of them is that we will develop and launch during the 24-25 fiscal year a successful restorative alternate dispute resolution program.
But what are we restoring and what are we resolving? That's what I'm trying.
I didn't propose it, so this was something that was before me. So I haven't investigated that. That's something that's not on my radar screen. So I'm saying this is something that we are not moving forward with. We have not put time, attention, or resources to it. So I'm saying I'd like to take a preemptive approach to say to city council, before we get to the budget hearing process, we're not doing this and here's why, and we have communicated it, we've had the conversation with the board, and we've already communicated that we won't be moving forward with the ADR.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying, as a board, Larry, do you know what this is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying, because the board don't know what this is.
Well, no, this is something, this has been discussed, I mean, this is something that, it hasn't been a priority, but it's been there. So I guess my question, which might give a little clarity, my understanding that some of this was, like going back to the matrix, one of the potential recommendations for discipline or something that could be expanded upon was, as opposed to something that was more of a minor offense, that there could be, a one-on-one with the officer and people did the complaint, restorative justice, something, something alternative to a 10-day suspension or, nothing, if there wasn't anything that the complainant may just want something else besides what, a discipline for the officer, or we felt maybe something else would be appropriate. And they're expanding on that where that can help build. I thought it was part of that. So how do you see that also, or do you see a different vision for that? Or do you see what the matrix?
Eventually, I think we're addressing other kind of core priorities right now. I don't believe that we're in a place that we can move forward and do that yet. Just given kind of the current state, we're working on and continuing to improve relations, but to move forward in that direction, we're already in December. We just haven't put any person power into that.
So backing up from that, I get that. So on a smaller scale, I guess, do you see with the matrix changes that are potentially coming, we're still waiting to hear back from RPD and Locust Club. If there is an aspect of the matrix recommendations for discipline that is something that's more restorative justice as opposed to discipline for an officer, how do you see that? Is that just more of a, like what happens if, because I don't know if we bring that to CDR to do, I think that'd be better if we set that up, but I don't, is that a small?
For interviews, how are we gonna get them in for alternative dispute resolution? It's really kind of ridiculous. I think you're well justified.
And that, I think, sorry. And again, just a clarification came in. I'm confused by alternative dispute resolution, which would be, for example, restorative justice or mediation. Those would be examples of an alternative dispute resolution. So I think that does that help, Yvonne?
I guess my question is, since most of us in here don't really know exactly what it is, then how do you remove something
That you don't
if you don't know what it is? So I guess my suggestion was that we need to, I want to say, look at it or explore it or whatever a little bit more before we agree to removing it. I mean, is there you can put it on hold or whatever you can do,
Well,
but the word remove to me is a little bit strong.
But you want to keep something as a metric that we're being tested on if you don't understand what it is either.
But why would you remove something? You know what I'm saying? Either. I
But
mean,
why do you want to keep something if you don't?
well, it balances out.
I just would respectfully suggest if you want to put it on hold and we can do some more review.
Right.
But I really want to make this decision no later than January because then we start getting into the budget process. And I don't want it to feel like it's a knee-jerk reaction that we're making this decision.
When you keep saying the budget process, does this particular thing gonna have an effect on the budget that we receive?
They will ask us during the budget process, what is your progress on actualizing this and achieving it? What are your metrics? What's your data? What have you done to make it come to fruition?
So it's not implemented.
No.
And we don't, and
It's
what
never
I'm
been.
hearing is we don't have the capacity to do this thing. I gave two examples of restorative justice or dispute resolution, or mediation. We don't have that, so get it out of the way. And is that correct?
Correct.
I'm in favor then of not muddying the waters when it comes to the budget because they will hold our feet to the fire, so to speak. They'll say, what are your metrics and it could torpedo our budget negotiations, I think.
And I say that would be petty for them to hold one thing.
Well-
I'm just saying. Okay. for them to hold that particular thing against us when it's never been implemented in the first place.
Right, that's
Okay?
exactly it.
So that would be for the city, quote unquote, of Rochester, to hold that against us. That would be very petty for them to do. So that's, you know, but anyway.
Yeah.
I'd like to, any other discussion on it? To call a vote?
Is it fair to say that, I know this point in time where the agency is we don't have the capacity, but maybe in future term, and then we can, when our table's not as cluttered, we can rediscuss something like this.
And that's the last part of this. Yeah, I'm not saying not ever, just not now,
I agree.
right? It's like I said, we're halfway through the year, and I want to be able to, again, preemptively say to council, listen, we're not moving in this direction, but let me show you how we still are fulfilling these two strategic goals as outlined by the mayor. Because you have to connect your strategic initiatives to these goals, and we are doing it. So it's not that we're not throwing the baby out with the
And
bathwater,
they
right?
give us more leeway on staffing us with the proper things to do, okay? Then, then we'll go back to that. That's what I'm saying, but moving it all away altogether,
We can always put it back.
Hmm?
We can always put it back once we are.
So if you're gonna put it back, why remove it? Just put it on hold.
Because we can't just put it on hold.
Okay, all right.
We have to say that we're not going to report out on this.
No, we're not, we even did it, and since the, board got together, I think.
All right, I'll call a vote then. Motion to approve Dr. Mai's recommendation to remove this as a strategic initiative.
Second.
All in favor? All against?
One extension.
One against. All right, 5-1. All right.
Thank
I would
you.
like to add just, as we do the matrix and if, the alternative is in there, making sure that's something done with that. All right, thank you.
All right, the final piece. So the budget. As you know, each year, each bureau goes through a budget process and has to prepare a budget for consideration to be approved. And so I have been working with the leadership team. Some of my leadership team members have already had some initial conversations with their divisions around the following three scenarios. One, if the budget just stays current, right, where we are right now, a little over 3 million with standard year-to-year over increases, right, like salary increases, cost of living, those types of things. So what would that look like? And that's pretty standard. Scenario 2 would be to consider additional resources to support new initiatives or enhance current operations. So what does that look like? It could mean addition of staff. It could mean addition of training opportunities. It could be some type of technology, software, something along those lines. And then the third scenario, which none of us really like, but have to think about as well, is adjusting the budget to reflect reduced funding, right? But while preserving the core functions of who we are as the Police Accountability Board. So again, status quo, just slight increases for the year-to-year increase. Adding is scenario 2, and then cutting is scenario 3. We have not received our initial budget numbers of what we're looking at yet. That comes from the administration, from the mayor, from the budget office. So we don't have those numbers yet. But we're having conversations again by division, starting. They have not been completed through division, and I asked them to take each division through a process to talk about those three scenarios. And so I'm interested in hearing from you just kind of initially And again, I will send kind of a follow-up document to work you through around what are things that are priorities for you as a board. Is staffing, increasing staffing a focus? You're probably gonna say yes to all of the above, right? It's training. But what we need to do, whatever those things that we're thinking or hoping that we can add, we need to prioritize those things, right? So say we have 17 things that we really like that we want to add. But what's the top, 3 to 5 things that we want to look at? And start looking at what those price tags certainly entail. So just, again, this isn't a super in-depth, deep conversation, but I wanted to just initially just outline to you what does the process entail. So I've had already one meeting with folks from the city, and it's just to present to me what our budget was last year and what it is this year, right? And to just show us what that looks like. And as I'm sure you're aware, the heaviest expenditure at the PAB is what? Staff, right? That takes up a good portion of our budget. But then we have other things like training. We obviously have to pay rent here at the DNC building. We have, we need to buy office supplies, things of that nature. So we just had a review of what those items were. Then we were told sometime in December we would get our numbers. And hopefully it's higher than what we currently have. And then we go about making some decisions. What I think is important for us, and this is what I just really want to put on the table for the board to consider, and I've talked to my leaders about this, is that we want to try and figure out what type of additions do we want to have for us. If you remember our history, our budget was $1.6 million higher than it is now, right? So there are things that we had that we don't have. Some of it's staff and some of it is other resources. But I just, and I don't know what the process has been before. It sounds like we might not have had budget conversations, but I think it's important as the executive director to certainly not only engage staff, but to engage the board around what is important to you, what are your thoughts, what matters to you. Now, if I went around the room and you shared your wish list, there probably would be overlap, but there also would be very different things that you desire to add to the budget. And so that's where we have to coalesce and really come together as a board to figure out, okay, what are those top priorities that we have as a board? So I just wanted to have that initial conversation and just hear some initial thoughts, if you have them, about what your thoughts are and what your priorities are.
I'll go, and Mary's got her hand up, and then nodding. So for me to rank the order, I do 2 number 1, 2 number 2, and 2 number 3.
Okay.
I mean, I think that.
Two number one.
Yeah, I think all of our options, I think, are budget expansion. I mean, the number one, we were staffed at a higher amount before. There were a lot of difficulties in getting our staff approved, even after they were budgeted, which is aiming some of that this year still. So yeah, I think that's kind of been held against us. I don't want that being held against us for not being able to meet our full budget goals. But also, the charter is really clear about having 90-day turnarounds on our cases if possible. Some of that is for us not getting information from the city, but also just the volume of some of the cases. And there's ebbs and flows in that, but we get a bunch of really complicated cases that the staff had to spend more time on, in the investigative division, once they get them in from, once they get the cases, then people aren't getting the justice they need in the time frame that they need. I'm also worried about, especially now that we've been around long enough, that our cases are going to start to fall out of potentially our time to be able to investigate them because it's been such a delay. So I think, and then when it goes to the outreach, like I mentioned earlier, in the charter, there's a lot more outreach that we need to do that, the folks are doing well now, but we need more people to be able to do that outreach, which will also assuming that goes well, which I think it will mean there's more increased cases coming in.
Yeah.
Or more increased policy recommendations, or just more increased engagement. So, we haven't been around for a decade, we're really young, so as we're growing,
Yeah.
I don't want to put an artificial cap on what, what we look like in regards to staffing. It may not be 50 by the end of the year, but it shouldn't be where we're at right now, for us to fully grow. The city is doing well financially, considering how other cities have done across the state. So, I think for us to be able to increase our work and we're going to get to the cost of misconduct later, but the better of job that we do, the more we're able to do, that could be a potential cost that comes down in regards to bad interactions with the police that cost the city money. So there's not a way to quantify that necessarily yet, but our work is important enough that if we can avoid more of those situations that cost the city a lot of money, financially that's good for the city. I mean, morally, it's more important that it's good for the community, but we're trying to figure out how do you have to, figure out, money-wise or budget-wise, why we're important. That's a metric that, I don't know how we quantify that yet, but could be, or should be, taken into effect. So, as we talk, figuring out how to prioritize that, but I'm definitely for expansion for those reasons and others. Marion?
I haven't looked at the budget in a while and I can't remember. I want to make sure that we have general liability, that we have officers and directors, and that we have legal defense funds. Because unless somebody can tell me different, if the PAB is sued and they want more money than we have in our general liability, they can go after the individual officers. So I want to make sure that we have funds for those three things. I don't think we should have to keep going back to the city. They ask them for legal defense funds. I think the city needs to understand that they can't settle the junk with the Locust Club. We're just gonna have to keep spending money on legal defense. The city needs to understand that the Locust Club is in city property. Talk about conflict of interest.
I got two, would you ask her? I got general liability, and legal defense funds. What was the third?
General liability, directors and officers, and legal defense.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Staffing was, I bolded that, I'd started. Staffing is huge. Just imagining, team of two has done, what would a team that you want, like the size that you want, could do? Amazing. And then also the investigations is also a concern because the investigation team is doing amazing work, and as we grow and that outreach continues, I can only imagine that we may be receiving an increase in reports, month to month. And the investigation team is going to need to be able to keep up with that. And training. We have NAPL that we are connected with, and as other cities are building their community oversight boards or coalitions, we have the opportunity to grow from a network and learn from a network. And so staffing, and then more staffing, and then training.
Thank you.
On my list, well, I only have one item. It's kind of piggyback of what Mom was saying. Just hopefully we can just have an expansion in the budget where we could enhance current operation within the community engagement team. Because this is the first time I've met the team and to hear how much they have done, and it really just means that if they have much more financial resources, they could expand, way more in what they're doing, the scope of what they're doing now. And I think education and educating the public as well about what we're doing, how to do it. And I know that comes with a cost because you have to learn how to clarify a lot of these information that we're processing. So it's good that we can have the resources so we can make sure citizens of the city know exactly what's going on and not a lot of the stuff going over folks' heads. So I do agree with the whole budget expansion to get more staff, specifically with the community engagement team.
Okay. Now all of my divisions are gonna be like, can I present?
They should present.
But we didn't say policy. Of course, policy still needs more support too. They've done a lot already. You guys have done so much already, but no, especially I think, I mean, I don't want to seem like we're like kids asking for everything from Santa's list, right?
Right.
But I will say with some of the improved, in some area relationships with the city, especially some of the policy work, there have been recommendations that have been accepted, more than once now.
Yeah.
That will continue to grow, which means there'll be more work that will grow out of that, which means there'll be more ideas coming in that we can build on and hopefully get quicker and better data to help with that relationship. So I think, another thing, the policy team's going to grow, especially, this kind of goes back to, what folks found out when we went to NAPO. The work that we're doing is being looked at by a lot of other places, and we're going to be able to look at other places in the country that are doing work. So maybe ideas or thoughts that we're going to get from coordinating within the state, with some of the battles or fights we may be having, statewide with other accountability boards together, that there will be more information that, data, more data can come in that our policy team is going to need to build on. So all those things, and we're new, this is a growing field, and, nationwide, it's going to the conference now. This is something there's going to be more and more of, even notwithstanding what happened last month, in many states, there will be more of this work happening, and, we're at the forefront of it here, so I think we need to grow, as the rest of the country is.
So the point.
I want to make sure policy wasn't forgotten.
Uh-huh.
Never.
Possibly proven that we have room to grow and do more, so I think with what we've done with the
We
resources we
need
have.
more money.
So, thank you certainly for that. I took notes and we'll circle this back. And then, just as you're thinking, I'll bring this topic back up in January. We'll talk about it again and, certainly have you take a look at some numbers, right? That's important to know where that sits as far as numbers, but also, percentages. And then we'll take that, feedback and work to try and move that forward as we build up a budget.
I think it'd be important too for us that are appointed by specific council members to follow up, in conjunction with you, and the staff about what we want to talk to our appointed council members about
Yes.
regards to the budget too.
Also, when we bring this conversation back up, I'd like to see the feedback that you're getting, however you'd like to summarize it, that you've gotten from the divisions.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have that. I asked for it by the end of December, so it'll give me a chance to analyze it, because I just want to make sure. Yeah, I'll have it together, even if it's an initial blush.
And our budget year ends when?
June 30th?
Oh, so 24 budget ends in 25 in June.
July 1 of
No,
each
I'm
year.
just saying, so don't end, it's not ending in December. That's what I'm trying. It's gonna end next year.
Oh, no.
Okay,
No.
okay. All right,
And
move
also,
on.
as we mentioned the legal stuff earlier, I mean, we have outside counsel we've been using, we'll probably using them a lot more, but just, I know we can kind of use them when we want, but maybe that rate may need that budget, it may need to increase considering some of the legal fights we have above.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm moving, we move on. The next thing.
Anything else around that?
No, that's really all that I have. And I just wanted to just offer thanks to each one of you for your support over the past several months. We've had some bumps, right? Certainly, externally and internally, but you all have just been incredibly supportive. I appreciate your passion and your dedication to our agency, to the mission. And I just wanted to give each of you just a small token of thanks. So I'm a baker. That's what I do. That's one of my superpowers. So I just wanted to give you just a small treat, just to say thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Appreciate it. All
And that concludes my report.
right.
All right then, very
Thank you.
good. Okay.
That
next.
was intense and needed. Thank you.
You're not the chair.
I still haven't told June. All right, so cost of misconduct, a proposal for change, presentation, and board vote. Dejan, I can ask if you can give like a 10-minute start and we're gonna need to take a break. So just we figure out a good way to stop in 10 minutes before we come back.
You know, hopefully we can wrap this up.
Way the nice one going, I don't know.
Well, first and foremost, thank you all for taking the time to hear out the Policy and Oversight Division. And hopefully by now, each of you have had the opportunity to read through the cost and misconduct proposal for change, as well as review the public feedback that we sent out about 2 weeks ago. One of the things you might have noticed is in the public feedback, there were actually no changes to the 5 recommendations that the Policy and Oversight Division put forward. Most of the requested changes was to expound upon some of the ideas we already wrote on in the initial draft. So with that being said, hopefully, again, you all have read the public feedback. Were there any opinions on whether we should do anything different than what was suggested in the? Nope.
No.
I think something else, but yeah.
Oh,
We can just talk a bit about the administration had a response, and we had a response to the administration.
yeah.
I really appreciate it, but we can kind of.
The administration wrote a bit about some of the data. They had concerns about the data that we used, which they provided, and the analysis that was conducted. Most of those things will be addressed in the revisions that we put forward, as we noted in the public input feedback form. Specifically, we're going to expound upon why there is a discrepancy in terms of the 78 claims that were not provided to the PAB, but we did have at least some of the numbers to ascertain where those claims came from. And other than that, that's about it.
So, I will know, yeah, the administration took our 5 recommendations.
Yep.
So there was a lot of, discussion after that in the letter. The idea that all 5 were accepted, I think is a good thing. And this kind of goes back to our data access issue, which we've had with our investigations team trying to get access to data, but even you with the policy team. This has happened in previous reports also, where there's been the administration trying to dictate what data that we get. And I've said before, you can't have folks that you have oversight over dictating what things you can look at to have oversight over it. That's kind of, and the ask of our investigation team, our policy team, has not been, we need data from 1983 or 1977 or, things that are outrageous, they're within the time frames that are necessary to do good work. And not having that, makes the work that's clear in the charter harder to happen, harder to do. So,
If I may, I will say this project we launched in August of 2023 to begin our gathering of information and our data analysis. The reason it took practically a year, a little bit over a year to get this project out is because of the data access issues that you're speaking on. We initially filed a source of information request with the RPD seeking some of this data. We didn't get it that route, so we decided to file a Freedom of Information Law, or FOIL. We were then told that as a city agency, we cannot file FOILs, so we had to think creatively outside the box and work with our partners at the PABA, who then filed a FOIL on our behalf, and were able to obtain the data that we needed to move forward with this project. We actually had to go through that cycle twice. And luckily, we were able to get this information to provide some of these outcomes to the general public. And so we're very thankful for our partners at the PABA for being willing to step in and work with us to make sure that we bring this level of transparency to the city of Rochester.
thank you for that.
Well, I told you we could do this in 10 minutes. It looks like we just
One time we don't have a ton of, well, we've had this for a while.
Yeah.
Not true. I do like the two pager here, there's been an ask, especially from, I think from Rabbi Fettel and Arlene, to get more data, things like this that we can share that have graphs and paragraphs that, I read all the long page stuff too, but some people like to read this kind of version of things first.
We found that the public found these to be really helpful, and moving forward, we're looking to make this a standard practice
Good.
from our division.
Okay, good.
All right, any other questions before we move? All right, oh, we're gonna get you out on your. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the cost of misconduct proposal for change.
Second.
As in front of us, with some small additions based on the administration's back and forth with us. Second, all right, all in favor?
Thank you all.
Okay, John.
All right, well, let me do my report. Get to, get you out.
Thank you.
All right, chair's report. All right, so we are here for the chair's report. I will keep it short and sweet. I want to thank all the staff and leadership for a great way to end the year with a lot of detail and a lot of movement and some more foresight into what we're going to go into next year. Yeah, I do want to add that, as we mentioned at the last meeting, there was a lawsuit from the Locust Club that we're going to, vigorously defend the agency on. But we are going into the year, with that hanging over us. But, let's say this time last year and the year before, 2 years ago, each year our support that we've had from council has increased. And it's not, 100% all the time, but it's definitely increased each year, which I think is helpful as we get into more of these external fights that we're having in regards to, well, internal sometimes if you're talking about getting stuff from the administration, but in regards to the Locust Club. But again, we're still continuing to do what we need to do. It's very clear among the board, staff, the community, the charter says what it says, and that's our work. So I'm just proud to be chair of an organization that's doing pretty revolutionary work within a bureaucracy, which is not easy to do. And we're still trying to figure out, how to do both. But next year is going to be an interesting year policy-wise across the country. And I think I said this at our last board meeting, but we have something really precious here with our Police Accountability Board. Not everybody in our country is going to be able to have that, even if they have it right now. Some of them are going to lose funding from it. And there may be a tax against our work, even further than just locally. So it's kind of really important, even more important that as we grow next year with our budget and our work in the community, that we kind of recognize that we have something pretty precious here, and community demands that we keep it in, as board chair and as board members and as a staff. I know we want to make sure we fight for that too. And one of my frustrations is, having to deal with the administration on these things that, we're trying to work through. But that protections that we have here, not everybody has in other states. And although I won't get into this a whole bunch because it's, out of my control a little bit, but, representation from our staff is important too. When we go back to our budget items, there's, the city council did appropriate more money to regards to the legal fight that our staff is going through in regards to representation. The board 2 years ago voted unanimously to support the representation of our workers by a union. We are 2 years later and that still hasn't happened. As a board, we can't get directly involved in choosing that, but every other city employee has a union and our members don't. So hopefully that can get resolved sooner than later. That makes it work harder if we don't have that as a other city employee does. So for chair's report, since we do want to get out at decent time, we do have an executive committee coming up, I think. I will go on to committee reports. Training committee, we kind of talked about that in your report. Anything else for training? What is our next training that we have coming up?
You don't have it.
I
I know it's a SharePoint one. Is that in January?
got a SharePoint training set for the 19th of December.
Okay.
19th of
19th,
December.
Yep, so that's,
Yeah.
so that's, that I know a lot of us, won't call people out, but someone's got that issue dealing with some of the databases and stuff. That SharePoint training will make things a lot easier, understanding how to get through where some of the material is.
First, you gotta be able to get on and get it.
Yeah, what time is it?
That's-
5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Is that a third Thursday?
The 19th is
2 weeks.
I have a vestry meeting.
the third
It'll be
Thursday.
the third.
That's why it's-
Yeah. But yeah, we've been going through the trainings. We've had, every month we've had some along with our candidate reviews. Again, as volunteers, we're here, in person or not, putting the hours in every week. All right, anything for old business? Anything for new business? All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn executive session to discuss potential legal actions we may need to take. All right, all in favor? Adjourn for executive session. There may or may not be a vote on that year, so we will be back after executive. All right, we are back from our executive committee meeting. Thank you everybody who is still watching or came back to watch. We took no votes on any matters, and I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning? Okay, thank you for watching. See you next month.